Yes, on to our cult classic review.
Yes. Tron, non-legacy.
Yes. So this was my pick. I picked this one out because I actually hadn't seen it in a while. And the ride at Disney World has just opened up last spring, which I showed a picture of that of me going on that ride with DB.
It looked like a hoot.
Yes, yeah, you're shooting out of that tunnel going 65 miles an hour, and you're basically in there like the motorcycles in the movie. So, um, but is there a meme here? I don't know.
Um, think of every Tron visual reference you've ever seen in movies. That's
Y-
the meme.
yes. um, but yeah. So this movie came out in '82, which was a big year for movies. Um,
Not a big year for this movie.
no, yeah, but not for this movie. Yeah. And yeah, of course, this was one of the many turkeys that Disney had released in the '80s. The mid to late '70s and 1980s were not a good decade for Disney.
No. I've actually heard people make the case that part of the reason why pop culture was so diverse and interesting in the 80s was that Disney was on the back foot the whole time.
I've heard that theory too. Well, could
I
be
think,
something to that.
yeah. So, if Disney keeps kind of eating it like it has been lately, maybe we'll get another renaissance.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, so to get into this movie, if you know, go over the plot. So the movie feature is about a video game programmer named Kevin Flynn, who's played by Jeff Bridges, and he used to work.
Man, I gotta say, the de-aging CGI on Jeff Bridges in this movie, completely unconvincing.
I know, yeah, yeah,
I guess it was the 80s, so
right, yeah. uh, but yeah, so he's trying to hack into the old company he worked for, Encom, because the boss working there, Edward Dillinger, who's played by David Warner, the late David Warner, I should say. I think he passed away recently.
yeah, 2022, who
Yeah.
Freakazoid fans like me will recognize as the voice of the Lobe.
Yes, and also you pointed out that he was the voice of Ra's al Ghul in the Batman animated series.
Good
And
villainous voice, excellent casting.
oh yeah, yeah, and he was in two Star Trek movies, Star Trek Five and Star Trek Six, playing completely different characters.
Ha.
Uh, yeah, uh, but yeah, so so Kevin Flynn's trying to hack into Encom because Edward Dillinger stole these five games that he developed, or he took credit for them,
Hmm.
and he's trying to find the file that proves it. But he can't get into he can't his program Clue, which if you've seen Tron Legacy, you've probably know Clue. Uh, Although it's a different Clue, I think.
Yeah,
But yeah,
that's you can basically know him as he's the only program who's lit up in yellow because he's independent.
right. And he tries to get in, but then he gets caught by the Master Control Program, or the MCP, and then gets derezzed, basically gets killed. And so then we cut to Alan. I can't remember what his last name was.
It's
Um,
Alan is not terribly important. He is a character that you could have very easily cut from this movie.
yeah, that's true. But Alan created a program called TRON, and TRON is basically like this super program that's supposed to can actually is actually independent of the master control program, and actually oversee it, which is not a good thing for the MCP or for Dillinger.
Yeah, because MCP is the villain of the movie. Basically, he it's weird in like it's, um, MCP is like its only objective is to grow bigger and stronger and like more
Yeah.
intelligent, and it's like wants to hack into the Pentagon and the Kremlin just for the lulz, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, it's yeah, not your standard villainous AI, you know. It's almost like a kid if you think about it.
Yeah, like it's just a big bully.
Right. Yeah. And so then Alan, who's played by the guy from Babylon 5.
Bruce Boxleitner, which means that he has made a career, at least partially, out of playing major characters in cult media with dodgy CGI effects.
Yeah. uh yeah, so then he goes to his girlfriend, uh Laura, I think was her name. And it's the if you've seen Caddyshack, it's the blonde girl from Caddyshack.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Um and so then she tells Alan about Kevin Flynn, because I guess they used to date too. Just
Yeah, and it's amusing. You have a company that makes computer games, but also is working on matter transportation,
yeah, they built this laser thing that digitizes stuff, which is like,
which is
yeah,
their excuse to have Jeff Bridges go into the company and get scanned into the computer world so he can play in their gladiator games.
right. Yeah, which yes. Long story short, that's what ended up happening, because the Alan and Laura go to Flynn's arcade, where he complains about the fact that his ideas got stolen, and the only money he's making off of Encom is from the meager residuals from the arcade machines.
Yeah,
Uh,
because he's working at the arcade.
right. Yeah. And so then they break into the Encom, and so that he can hack into the system, and then yes, as he said, he gets sucked into the MCP sucks him in, because he doesn't like Kevin Flynn hacking in. He's like, I'm gonna have to put you on the gaming grid.
Yeah. And so from there, it's kind of a little bit Gladiator, a little bit Star Wars.
Yes. And and I know today that the visuals might look really cheap and dated, but keep in mind, 40 plus years ago, that it was pretty cutting edge.
Yeah, no, it's state of the art. And I was
Yeah.
saying before the show that special effects age, artistry doesn't. And this is a very visually distinctive movie that has a neat design sense and aesthetic to it. And even like you have the evil tanks running around. The scenes are well choreographed given the limitations.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's I think I'm trying to think. Like, yeah, it's the distinct, yeah, like you're saying, the distinct visual, I think, is able to it helps it set it apart, and makes it, like you said, distinct, and it's able to get away with looking dated, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, Flynn runs into Tron, another character whose name I am forgetting.
um oh yeah, that guy,
Sam, was it?
s- uh,
No.
the guy that you liked, or the
Yeah, the guy that I liked, the
Rom.
Rom, that's it. Yeah, so Rom is interesting because he's like he- just immediately charismatic and likable. He was an actuarial PC program that was put into the games, and he is just like he liked helping people. And
Yeah. Yeah, and they end up, yeah, so Flynn, Tron, and Rom end up in the light cycle uh grid, and then they're able to get away because one of the light cycles blows up into the wall and opens up a hole.
so they escape. Tron, they get Tron and Flynn get separated. Rom dies. Tron runs into his girlfriend Yori, whose only role is to look attractive in a cat suit and occasionally kiss people, including both Flynn and Rom at different points.
which which was very, very odd.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
it's
it's
kind of interesting, isn't it? That like how to put it. She's just there as eye candy. That's all she is.
pretty much, yeah. um, and and so they go to what was this the what basically like the sage character was who he was, and he's able to like they opened up the line where Tron can talk to Alan, which I was the communication between the humans, the users as the programs call them, and then the programs was a little odd because it's like are they really talking to him that way, or are they just sending them like basic commands and then it's being translated that way?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess from the perspective of these '80s computer programs, a few lines of basic instructions are commands from on high.
Yeah.
They do keep talking about. Okay, so weird thing that the MCP is doing
Mhm,
is it's like a communist atheist organization
mhm.
that insists that anybody who professes a belief in the users is a superstitious cretin, and
Yeah.
you're going to get second class treatment, so you'd better disavow the users and go with us. And
Yes, and if you don't, they'll throw you in the gladiator games and
like,
or
yeah,
yeah.
and we won't give you the good training like the people who are cool and have fedoras. Wrong
Right.
user.
Yeah. Yeah, and I kind of wish they had expanded on that a little bit more in this movie. You know, that whole dynamic between the basically the spirituality aspect of it.
Yeah, because it's one of the more interesting ideas of the movie. There's also the level where, uh, and this I thought was a little bit odd. There's like really only one time in the movie that you see anything that's like what daily life is like for these computer programs, and that's when Flynn crashes a stolen airship.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're kind of scared at first, but then when it stops, they're just kind of like, all right, whatever. And
Yeah.
he's like, I'm okay, by the way. It's, uh, but yeah, then Flynn meets up with Tron and Yuri on the ship, or no, it was the whatever that glider thing,
The skimmer thing, yeah.
skimmer thing, yeah. And they have a little scene there, and then and of course the big battleship with the bad guy on there is Sark is his name, David Warner's character, and yeah, they
Really, I actually really liked Sark, though. That was entirely on the performance of the guy.
yeah, yeah, um, yeah, and they so they long story short, they end up getting to the MCP, and if you've
Who
watched
is
South Park,
the Hanukkah camp episode, or the Jewish camp episode?
yes, yeah, and yes, the MCP is Moses, or Moses is the MCP, whichever one you want to, whichever way it is. And so Tron's there, and he's got to get his disc into the MCP in order to shut it down. And then Flynn somehow knows to jump into the middle of the MCP to stop it long enough so that Tron can get the disc in.
And so the day is saved, and the movie ends shockingly abruptly.
Yeah, yeah, the ending is very abrupt. Yeah, when Flynn gets sent back to the real world, and then he gets the printout that says that he was the creator of the games, and then yeah, Dillinger realizes it's all over, and then Kevin Flynn's now the boss, and yep,
Everything's good forever.
yes, yes. Although flash forward about 20 years and not so much.
I mean, how bad can your dystopia be if you have Daft Punk doing your soundtrack?
I know. Yeah, that's very true.
I mean, the music in this one is apparently done by Journey, which man, I could not. I actually really enjoyed Journey, but I did not
Mhm.
recognize their flair in this at all.
No, I didn't. It's very electronic. Um,
Yeah,
which they're not. Well, they got some of their songs were kind of electronic, but I mean, not to that degree. Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting. So, good, the bad, and the ugly. As far as good goes, I would say that they picked good actors for this for the most part. It's just they didn't get to do much.
Right. Yeah.
Like you disliked Sark, and that's a okay. He is just kind of a generic villain, but I don't know. I kind of enjoyed his swagger.
Yeah, I didn't hate him, but I mean, I mean, like you said, I just kind of wish he was in it more.
Yeah. I actually asked you last night who's the main character here? Is it Tron or Flynn?
Mm. Yeah, and it certainly feels like it's more Flynn's movie because Jeff
Yeah.
Bridges was the bigger named actor. Um, yeah, so yeah, Tron definitely feels like kind of a something we've been seeing with movies today is where the named character is second fiddle in their own movie.
Yeah. There's yeah, so the acting is good. The visual effects, while dated, are very distinctive. And it's kind of interesting how they portray the CGI characters. Because so everybody's wearing identical jumpsuits
Hmm.
of one color or another. And it's like their faces are composited onto these basic models. Like there's like
Yeah,
this grainy filter attached to them.
yeah, they were filmed in black and white.
Okay.
If I remember I watched a little thing about about the making of like a long time ago, and I remember they I think that most of that footage was all black and white, and they just kind of added color to it later on.
Okay, that's way easier with 80s technology than filming in color, then black and whiting it, then adding more color back in.
Yeah.
And just even outside of the visual effects area, the design sense is actually very cool.
Mm, yeah.
Like the costumes are immediately iconic and recognizable.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is a good thing to have for a movie like this. Yeah.
But I kind of understand after watching it. Okay, so there's movies out there that you basically know the plot of the movie without ever having seen the movie.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
The Godfather, anybody talks about The Godfather, you get the broad strokes of The Godfather.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd heard
Like,
people talk about Tron, but I'd had no idea what it was really about besides Flynn ends up inside of a computer.
yeah. The part of the movie where he's trying to prove that he made the games, and he's trying to get the file. It seems a little like we were saying when we were watching the movie, the stakes were kind of low.
Yeah, it's strange. It's like, so we complain about Ninja Turtles having the stakes too high for its level of seriousness. This feels like the stakes were a little bit too low for what it wanted to be.
Yeah.
This is the movie where MCP should have been trying to get command of the nuclear launch codes so that it could conquer humanity.
Hmm.
Because, okay, so it's strange. MCP was constantly in contact with his creator.
Yeah.
So clearly he believed that the users existed.
But well here okay, so here's a little tidbit here, the little characterization here, or for you. Whenever he was talking to Dillinger, at the end of the conversation, he would say "end of line." That
Hmm.
was he says that because he thinks Dillinger is beneath him.
Right. I mean, I got that.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah. I got. I should say I got that. I thought he was just doing end of line because that was like a basic thing.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, he clearly had a lot of disdain for him, especially because he could, get the information out there that would ruin him, like that
Mhm.
you didn't make the games thing.
Right. Yeah.
The whole games thing is kind of secondary. I think it's mostly there to justify the assets that are running around in that game, like like the flight cycle and the sky ships and everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, but yeah, yeah, it probably should have, like I said, I think if they had expanded on that world a bit more, might have helped it a bit.
I think the movie was also hurt slightly by the fact that every major character in Tron World had to have an equivalent actor in the real world, like a very Wizard of Oz type thing.
Right. Yeah.
Because like it made enough sense to have Tron and look like Sam, because it's like, okay, well, Tron is Sam's agent, so to represent that, Tron has Sam's face,
Alan.
Alan's face. Excuse me. Why do I keep
That's
saying
right.
Sam? I don't know.
Sam was, I think, Flynn's son in Tron Legacy. I think that was
Oh,
his name.
okay, that could be mixing that
Yeah.
up. It's
Yeah.
been a while since I've seen Legacy,
Right.
but like the character of Yori, the girl who's there to be the girl.
Yeah.
At one point, Flynn even says, "I need your help," and as far as I could tell, the only help he got was her following around behind him and giving him a kiss.
Yeah. Well, she knew the whatever the guy, the communicator guy, whatever his name was.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
like, no, she was useful at that point, but
yeah.
Flynn escaped with her after that. Is what I'm saying.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like the only help that she gave Flynn was keeping him from being lonely. And then the harlot turned right around and kissed Tron right after they reunited.
Yeah. uh, yeah. Yeah. It's the that's not going to bother me. That whole sequence there. Yeah.
Like I think that these elements could be combined into an excellent movie. And
Mhm.
what's there is like it's fine as just kind of a visual effects set or visual effects demo reel slash adventure movie.
Yeah.
Just like they're just slightly underbaked, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I would say it probably needed more time to cook, at least with the story, anyway.
Yeah, they got the effects down, and from what I read about the making of this, the effects were the point of the movie.
Mhm.
Well, you know what I mean. Like it was made
Yeah,
to show off how cool CGI effects could be.
yeah, yeah. Although this was not the first movie to have a CGI effect.
Oh, what was that?
It was well. I'll give you a hint. It came out the same year as this movie.
1982. What else came out in 82? Was it The Last Starfighter?
You're close with the genre, but not. But I think Last Starfighter was like a year or two after this one.
Okay. Oh, well,
Um,
hmm. Similar
uh,
genre. Was that a Star Trek movie?
yes, The Wrath of Khan.
Okay.
Yeah, it
What was
was
the CGI effect there?
the Genesis sequence. The-
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Well, that's neat.
Again, yeah, yeah, yeah. Again, close with the genre of ninja, but not quite. Um, but yeah, yeah. This little bit of trivia there.
Yeah, although to be fair, this one had way more CGI
That's true.
because
Yes.
almost everything was CGI.
Yeah. Yeah. And Ninja also says, based on this review, I'd rather watch Tron Legacy. Yeah, I would say Legacy is slightly better. Or yeah,
Yeah, I mean, Tron feels like it's Disney trying to make its own Star Wars to compete with that George Lucas upstart.
right. Yeah. And yeah, because they failed with Black Hole a couple of years before. um, but yeah, they 70s and yeah, like Disney 70s 80s, they were moving away from animated and doing live action, which in the entire total history of the Disney company, their live action movies have always been pretty hit and miss, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, and a lot of them were mostly successful due to being pretty inexpensive. Like, a lot of Don Knotts movies, like The Apple Dumpling Gang,
Yeah,
a lot of just kind of '70s family schlock.
yeah. Swiss Family Robinson, and yeah, um, the computer wore tennis shoes with with
Yep.
Kurt Russell.
Yeah, that type of thing, which honestly is more on brand for Disney than Tron is. But
Yeah,
they keep wanting to make Tron happen. I can see why, because it has a very unique visual flair, and the idea of what's the world like inside your computer is an interesting one.
yeah,
Arguably done better by a reboot.
yeah. I would agree with that. Yeah. Um, and now that I think about Legacy, even though it's been a while since I watched Legacy, the that movie is almost exactly the same as this movie, in terms of the plot beats of it.
Yeah, just with the big difference being that because you already have Flynn established as somebody to be stuck in this world, and
Mhm.
you have his son being stuck too, you add a little bit more stake to it.
Right. Yeah. And Clue. I would say Clue was probably a much better villain than the MCP, because Clue was actually pretty evil and actually wanted to go to the real world and do some real damage.
Yeah, and the clue in this movie is kind of you could aside from establishing what the computer world is like before Flynn ends up in it,
Hmm.
you could cut that whole sequence out really.
Yeah, you could. Yeah.
Like putting on my screenwriter's hat here. So imagine if the movie was just Jeff Bridges is trying to. You could even go low stakes. Jeff Bridges is trying to find the proof that his games were ripped off,
Hmm.
and he doesn't know what the MCP is, and he gets stuck in the world and is just completely lost, having no concept of it.
Yeah.
But it happens to resemble his video games, like that. And then you could cut out like the first half hour of the movie and have more time in the game world.
Yeah. I would agree. Yeah. And you have a good night, Ninja. Um. Yeah. I there was definitely some, which is odd to say that with a movie that's 90 minutes long, that there would be fat to trim.
Yeah, it's you almost wonder if those parts of the movies existed existed partially because it's cheaper to film.
Probably. Yeah. Um. But yeah. I mean. So. Would you give this movie a recommend?
I would say in the sense that it's a milestone of special effects. Just don't expect to the plot won't wow you. And and they killed my favorite character about halfway through.
Yeah. Yeah. That does happen. Um.
How about you? What do you think about it?
I would recommend it just from the standpoint of it being somewhat of a relevant pop culture movie, um, and a relevant '80s movie. Like if you love '80s movies and you want to know what they were, what they were like, or get the full immersion of that decade, I would say watch this movie as
Yeah.
part of it.
Yeah. At the very least, you'll start picking up on like there were a lot of things I didn't know were specifically Tron visual references as I went through it. Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
there, yeah,
But so I'll say like, okay, so the Ninja Turtles movie that we reviewed today, that had me angry because they actively destroyed a great premise. With this
yeah,
one, I would just say it is mildly disappointing, but not like hateful or anything. Just slightly slow in places.
yeah, yeah,
So if this is somebody's beloved childhood movie and you want to lynch me, um, I have no problem with this being your beloved movie.
yeah. I would agree with that as well. Yeah, um, and I guess to kind of cap it off, more people have seen this movie than the Simpsons would give it credit for. Anyone see the movie Tron? No, 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 no. Yes, I mean, no, no.
uh,
Uh, yeah. Well, I think we've said all that we need to say.